how y'all doing? Well, I'm going to do a little video on my dressing. And when I was setting my camera up, it showed my whole entire table. But when I turn my camera on, it just shows my bowl in front of me, so we'll work with it. Still learning how to do this video in a little bit. For some reason on the camera part, it just show the whole table. The video part, small, it goes into a little small area. That's alright. But today we're going to do dressing, chicken and dressing. It's Thanksgiving time. I always prep my stuff early. I start a few days before Thanksgiving and I start getting my prep work done. I do cornbread dressing. Some people do stuffing. Cornbread dressing is, the way I do it mine, is cornbread with some stale bread all crumbled up together. I got some of it started here. Some people do a stuffing. A stuffing is more of a bread dressing. But this Southern girl likes her cornbread dressing. So I do cornbread dressing. My family, that's what we like. So I got a lot of prep work done already ahead of time. Yesterday or day before yesterday, and some of it today. So I'm going to sit down and talk to y'all and put this together. How about that? So what I started off with for my cornbread dressing, I made a big old pot, and I'll show you, big old cast iron pan of cornbread. And I got it all cut up and let it dry out a day ahead a little bit. And I also put some bread out for it to get stale, the next day too. And I also cut up my celery and onions finely, and I sauteed them in my butter. Got them all sauteed up. Now, as far as how much I do, I'll admit, I'm a little bit bad about measuring things. Some things I just do by eye. But what I a lot of times do, I'll go ahead, especially if I'm making like dressing or certain things, I'll go ahead and I'll cut up a whole thing of celery. And I'll cut up about 2 or 3 onions. And the reason why I do that, I may not use all of it, but that's okay, because what I do is I'll put it in a little container and I'll put it in the freezer. And I may or may not use all this cornbread or the bread. And whatever I don't crumble up, I'll put in a bag. Because sometimes later on, what I like to do is pull those things out, make me a little small thing of dressing down the road somewhere. Instead of making a big old batch of it, It's kind of nice just when you live alone to make a little small batch of something. But so that's why I do it that way, and I make it all in big batches. And sometimes I'll make 2 small things of dressing. Sometimes I'll make one big old bag. It all depends how big of a family we're gonna have that day. So we're going to have probably about, 6 people, I think. Something like that, I think, for Thanksgiving. So I'm going to make my bigger batch. Whatever we don't eat, then I'll put it in a container and I'll pull it out for a meal later on down the road. I don't let things waste, y'all. Good dressing. Are you kidding me? Don't let that stuff waste. So what I've done so far, I have gotten, excuse me, crumbled up a lot of my cornbread already, and I've crumbled up about 5 of my stale breads. I'm going to crumble up a little bit more in here while I talk to you. And we're going to have, what do y'all like for Thanksgiving, huh? Our favorite meals we like for Thanksgiving. We like our cornbread dressing. We like our turkey. Sweet potato casseroles, and we like some kind of green bean dish. Sometimes green bean abadine. On occasion we'll do green bean casserole, or gravy, mashed potatoes, rolls, deviled eggs, all kinds of stuff. And of course you can't forget the desserts, y'all. Pumpkin pie, pecan pies. Lord have mercy. It's like a food coma by the time you get done, whether it's good for you or not, with what we do. But we enjoy our meal. We get together. That's what it's all about, right? Getting together. with your family and friends. So, give you one more piece of bread. Now my bread, it's stale, because you'll hear. See how crunchy it is? Stale overnight, or about sometimes 2 days. And the reason I like, you want to get it stale, at least for me, I like to get stale, because your broth, it will soak up your broth into your dressing when you pour your broth over it and get it all mixed together. So I'm going to have extra, I can see already. Trying to see about how much I want in my bowl for my pan over here. And I'll probably keep out right over there and have me a little small batch in a little small bag. This will be plenty for who we're going to have all together here. And I use, now some people like to only put sage. Some people don't always like the strong taste of sage. So I go and I balance it out with poultry seasoning. And I don't measure. I kind of eye it. So you can see how big of a bowl I got here, okay? I got about 3/4 of a cast iron cornbread. I've got 5 pieces of stale bread in here. So, and when I just sprinkle all around. And I get it all filled up to the top. All cover the top of it. Sometimes that sprinkle doesn't always want to come out too well. But one thing you gotta remember is you get it just a little bit stronger than what you would want it when it's cooked. Because when it cooks some of that flavor is not gonna cook up as strongly. And it's gonna soak all in there. And I put the same amount of poultry, kind of balance it out. So right now I'll start off with that. Can you see how I got all sprinkled on top? Okay? Now, I'm going to be pouring off about half this mixture of onions and celery in here. I'm going to start off with that. And we'll see how much I like of that in there. If I want more, if I get it all mixed up, I might do that. And here's my chicken. Now, beforehand, I had some extra chicken already fitted in my freezer. And a lot of times, the way I prefer, I like to make homemade stock, chicken stock. And when I do that, then I take that chicken out of there and I'll shred it up and I put it in a bag and I have it for whenever I'm ready to make whatever meals I want to make. If I want to make my dressing or my dumplings or whatever I want to do with my shredded chicken meats, what I use it for, I put it in a bag and it's set aside in the freezer to pull out and use. When I make my stock, I put it in whatever containers I want to pull out and use for whatever meal I need later on. It's already ready to go. Well, this year, sometime on a time crunch, every once in a while I don't get a chance to make my homemade stock for a day, to put aside a day to do that. So sometimes you have to kind of cut corners, and that's okay. Whatever you're able to do. This year I had to cut corners. I wasn't able to make my homemade stock, but I had some extra meat left over from last time I did. But I had to get the box stock from the store, and I've got 2 boxes right in there, and I also put it like a stick of butter. Because whenever I get a box stock, for me, it's not as rich the way I make my stock. I make my stock when it's really rich. So when I make it, the flavor is different than the store stock. So I will add me some butter in there, a little bit of pepper. Sometimes I put my bay leaf in there, and I season it up because I put bay leaf in my homemade stock. See? And so in here, I'm going to put salt and pepper in my meal, in my cornbread, and along with my poultry and my sage. So I'm going to go around in here also and put pepper, okay? Go around and put some pepper in here. And I just and honestly, y'all, when it comes to seasoning, some people, I know they want exact seasonings, but truly, it's all into what, pardon me if I had a little nose tickle there. It's all in the way you like it. Some people don't like a lot of seasoning, some people do. And you're going to have to season that at your own taste is what you can have, okay? And so what I have here is a pan. Let me scoot up a little closer. Of the stock with some butter all melted in there, what made it good and rich. I got it doctored up, you know? Kind of have to doctor things up. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to use a box stock with some butter. I have some bay leaf in there. Get it all seasoned up a little bit better, like my homemade stock. And I just ladle it up, and I'll pour and let it broth and that stock, or whatever wording you want to use for it. I use them both. Actually, they're a little bit different because the stock is a little more richer in the way you make it, and more nutrients in the way you make it. If you make a bone broth or bone stock, and a lot more. It kind of depends. You can look that up if you want to. But I'm gonna pour this up and let it all get soaked up and good. Now I don't like my dressing where it's not dry at all. And I always make my dressing where it's stirred up a day ahead or two, and then I bake it Thanksgiving morning. So I won't be baking it today for you to see the finished product, but you'll see it all stirred up and all in my baking pan ready to go. And I'll tell you how I bake it. So, and I'm sure come Thanksgiving, as I pull and bake these up, I'll take a picture of all of our meals we baked up that day. And I'll show you. I'm a foodie person. I'm going to show you what my food looks like somewhere down the road. So I'll be mixing this up as this stock, chicken stock, is soaking up in this dry cornbread and this dried up bread. And it'll start soaking in here, getting all that goodness into all that bread. And gosh, y'all, it smells good. Smelling this stock, warmed up stock, and these cooked up onions. And I may have cooked up these onions and celery. I didn't have butter, but I warmed them up today, so because I don't want to add anything cold into this. So I warmed up the celery, and I warmed up that onions and stuff in the butter. And I think I'm going to need a little bit more seasoning as I'm stirring this up. I can tell as I'm stirring it up that I'm going to need a little more seasoning as I stir it. Get that seasoning layered in there as you're going. I can tell by smell. If you do it enough, you know if it's. But sometimes by smell, it's like, yep, that smells about right. And you just kind of have to know. If you don't like sage, use poultry seasoning. Poultry seasoning's a lot milder than your sage. Some people just don't like it. So that's why, I balance out with poultry seasoning, because I found that when I do that, people like the flavor better. I do too. I think I'll need me a little more stock in my pan, so I'm gonna go get it, okay? Hold on, y'all. This one wasn't warmed up. I may. Most of it's warmed up. There's just a little bit left in the box. But the majority of it was good and hot, so that'll be all right. Keep on getting this in here. And we'll just keep on ladling the stock. And we'll keep on stirring until we know we get to be on it to where we can see, wow, it's about right. Now, that's all into what you probably like. Like I said, I don't like a dry dressing. And the more I mix this up, the more I'm thinking I may want a few more onions and celery in this thing too. I'll probably end up using about 3/4 of this onions and celery. That's what I think I'm going to end up using. I'll have just enough of each of the vegetables and the bread left over to make a small dish down the road for myself. So, yeah, that vegetable, it looks like it's getting about right there. Just about the right amount of vegetables. The smell of it's just about right for the smell of the seasoning. And I'll even do a little bit of a taste test. I can tell whenever taste it, it's just a little bit stronger than what it's going to be when it bakes. A little more stock in here because it's going to, believe you me, still soak it up. It will soak up big time with it cooks. So this is probably going to take about a box and a half. And I always top it off once I put it in my casserole dish, if I feel it needs it, with some more stock on top of it. And then it'll sit overnight when it gets ready time to bake it. Let's get this shredded chicken added in here. Let's see here if we want to put any more. It's pretty much shredded up enough. That bag in y'all's way. Hope y'all can see okay. I usually, whenever I bake my dressing, I bake it about 425. And I start baking it for about 30 minutes. And I'll check it. I like it to be good and golden brown on top and get, it's getting just a little bit crusty on top. Gotta have a little crusties on top to taste. But inside, underneath all those crusties, the crusty top, brown, golden brown top, it's gonna be nice and moist and just plum delicious, y'all. Just absolutely delicious. And as you get to stirring all this up, that chicken, it gets to mixing real good in there. I think I need a little more. I'll go ahead and use all. I think I'm gonna keep that a little bit of chicken I have left. I'm gonna put over here these other vegetables, and that's gonna give me the perfect amount. Oh goodness gracious, the perfect amount for a small dish. I'll mix up, put in the freezer for another time. Let's get a little more chicken stock in here. Because it just soaks it up with all that cornbread and that bread good and dry. It just keeps on soaking it up. Now, there's been several people asking me to make my dumplings one day, and I'll do that for you one day. I'll make my dumplings one day for you. You get my pan up here that I put my dressing in every year, most of the time. I have to use this pan every year simply because this is my Grandma Morrison's pan. And she made her dressing in this pan as long as I can remember every year. So I have my Grandma Morrison with me every year when I make this pan. That's my mama's mom. So she spends our holidays with us when I'm making my dressing. But I simply having some of her things around me. That makes it extra special. We'll pour this dressing into this pan. Alright. Now, get all mashed in there. Let's see here. The one thing that if I haven't done yet, Y'all, since this is my food for just us, you're going to have to excuse me, but I'm going to taste it. See what I think about it. Mmm. Perfect. Perfect. Got the right amount of seasoning, right amount of pepper, and salt. And the richness of that broth with that butter in there makes it perfect since I'm having to use the box stock instead of the homemade. But if I make my homemade, ooh, it's just good, y'all. Now, we'll add a little more stock. I always top it off with some more stock all around the edges and get it soaking up in there. And when it gets time to bake it up, that stock will just soak in there so good. And it will be absolutely, let me push that down in there a little bit. But this is my cornbread dressing. It's not baked, but the only thing different is that it's not golden brown on top from when it's been baked. But this will be our cornbread dressing. Now I hope y'all are able to follow that along. What I do when it comes to one thing I didn't explain, let me backtrack. Sorry about that. I get to talking and I forget because I made some things ahead of time. When I make my cornbread, okay, I like to use self-rising white cornmeal. That's just my preference, and that's what I use. I don't like a yellow cornmeal for my cornbread dressing. It turns out looking yellow, and there's the reason why I'll tell you it's going to looking yellow. It's because some people call their dressing, the cornbread that they make for their dressing, an egg bread, egg cornbread, or a dressing bread. I've heard all the names. But what it amounts to being is when I make a cornbread for dressing, I make it extra rich. I add about 5 eggs into my regular cornmeal batter that I make in my cast iron pan. And it makes it more yellow because we have all the yolks in there. But when you make an egg bread, a dressing bread I make, you want a really rich cornbread for your dressing. It makes it so much flavor into it. Now I have used regular cornbread without the eggs in it, simply because sometimes if I want to pull together a quick old meal of a dressing, sometimes I might have some leftover biscuits or some leftover cornbread and some stale bread, and I'll throw it together, but I'll doctor it up with some flavoring in there with some extra butter. And sometimes if I don't have egg bread, I'll just have regular cornbread and pulling things together. I'll throw in some raw egg in there. And as it bakes up, it's going to cook. You won't even know it, but I'll make sure it's getting that flavor and that richness in there one way or other. Trust me. When you cook for a long time, you figure out how to throw together and doctor things up. And so that's how I make my cornbread, by adding about 5 eggs to my regular cornmeal batter. And I use white cornmeal. And so I believe that's about all I can think of that I've done to my dressing. And I hope, like I said, I don't measure. I just, I use about 3/4 of a pan of my cornbread, 5 things of sliced stale bread, I crumbled up in there. And I probably use I used a whole thing of celery and 3 onions, cooked them up, and I used about 3/4 that bowl full of it. So you can figure out how you would want to do yours. Nothing goes to waste. Like I said, you always put it aside and put it in a meal, put in a soup later on. Don't let anything waste. So, hope you enjoyed me throwing this dressing together, and I hope you might try it. And you season things to the taste that you like. If you like a lot of sage, throw lots of sage in there. If you want to balance it out, throw some poultry seasoning there along with it. Balance it out a little bit. But just remember, get just a little bit stronger in your uncooked dressing than you would want it to be when it's cooked, because it just tends to mellow out a little bit when it's cooking. Just remember that, okay? Well, you cook this at, like I said, 425. Start for about 30 minutes and check it and see if it's good and golden brown. And gut all and heat it up inside. If it needs a little more to get golden brown, just cook a little bit longer, but keep an eye on it so you won't burn it, because you can't burn cornbread dressing now on Thanksgiving. That's just, you just can't do it. Hope y'all have a good Thanksgiving. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your loved ones. Love y'all.